U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is looking up to Elon Musk to save the United States from its incredibly high debt and budget deficits. This is one of the most disruptive plans any president has ever proposed to save the economy. The big question is, how will it work, and what costs would be cut?
At a rally in Atlanta, Georgia, Trump proposed to create a Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and he wants Elon Musk to lead it.
Does being a successful businessman guarantee that Elon Musk will be successful at saving the country from its financial management troubles? The details we will be revealing in this video will shock you. As of November 2024, the U.S. national debt stands at approximately $36 trillion, reflecting a steady increase driven by continued government borrowing to fund various programs and manage fiscal deficits. This figure is a significant jump from the $33.7 trillion recorded a year ago, showing a rise of $2.2 trillion over the past 12 months. This rate of increase is simply not sustainable, and the government is going to have serious troubles even trying to slow this disaster down. The U.S. spends considerably more than it generates in tax revenue. For example, in 2023, government revenues amounted to approximately $4.4 trillion, while expenditures exceeded $6 trillion, resulting in a substantial deficit of $1.7 trillion. The main spending categories included Social Security, which accounted for $1.3 trillion, Medicare and Medicaid programs combined at $1.45 trillion, and defense spending, which totaled $805 billion. Furthermore, the cost of servicing this debt is rising sharply due to increasing interest rates, making interest payments one of the fastest-growing components of federal spending. This growing debt not only reflects federal overspending, but also raises questions about sustainability. Critics have pointed to mismanagement and inefficiencies in certain areas, such as excessive spending on defense projects and healthcare administration. Additionally, the fiscal path suggests an even bleaker future, with projections estimating the national debt could reach $54 trillion by 2034 unless substantial reforms are implemented. Let's take a closer look at what the government is overspending on. The two major contributors to federal deficits are the rising costs for entitlement programs like Medicare and Social Security, and the increasing interest payments on existing debt. For fiscal year 2023, net interest spending alone surged 39% from the previous year, hitting $659 billion due to increasing interest rates. This figure is set to exceed $1 trillion annually by 2029. At the same time, mandatory healthcare and retirement programs are expected to become higher than revenue generated, which will widen the gap between government spending and income. But that is not all. Military and international aid expenditures also play a significant role. Defense spending rose to nearly $1 trillion in 2023, with foreign aid commitments, including over $13 billion allocated to Ukraine. Infrastructure spending is another major budgetary outlay that totaled $44.8 billion federally in 2023, with state transfers adding another $81.5 billion. Despite these allocations, persistent issues such as aging roads and bridges indicate inefficiencies in fund management. The situation is worse than most people can imagine because there is just too much to be done. The key solution would be to look at money that should not be part of the budget. Several high-profile cases show the challenges in federal fund oversight. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Paycheck Protection Program suffered from widespread fraud and improper payments. Over $200 billion in potentially fraudulent claims were linked to PPP loans, as lax verification standards allowed ineligible businesses to exploit the program. Another case involves the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Recent audits revealed that some funds intended for disaster relief were misallocated or insufficiently tracked. Similarly, inflated contractor fees and mismanagement have affected infrastructure projects funded through federal programs, which proves that there are systemic inefficiencies. Government waste extends beyond improper payments. A report by the Heritage Foundation identified numerous examples of wasteful spending, including expenditures on items such as iPods, jewelry, and extravagant dinners. Such spending not only squanders taxpayer dollars, but also undermines public trust in government institutions. Additionally, elevated government spending and the resulting national debt carry significant economic implications. Excessive expenditures have been a key factor fueling the inflation surge that started in 2021, driving up the cost of goods and services. To counter inflation, rising interest rates have been introduced, increasing borrowing costs for both consumers and businesses. Experts agree that addressing these issues will require bold and immediate action. Recommendations from the Government Accountability Office, GAO, include implementing fiscal rules to cap spending, reassessing debt limit mechanisms, and improving oversight of federal programs. This is where Trump's unusual plan comes in. He believes a man like Elon Musk can sort out this problem. The only problem is many do not agree with this unconventional approach. Elon Musk's proposed appointment to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is both unconventional and surprising, given his outsider status in Washington and the unpredictable nature of his public personality. Musk is best known for transforming industries like electric vehicles, space exploration, and social media, not for navigating the complex and deeply confusing corridors of federal governance. His sudden shift from Silicon Valley innovator to bureaucratic reform is a stark departure from traditional government appointments. Musk's history of radical, sometimes controversial management styles is very different from the careful negotiations and agreement building often required in Washington. For example, his overhaul of Twitter, which is now known as X, involved rapid layoffs, policy reversals, and experimental monetization strategies, none of which align with the slow, deliberative nature of federal decision-making. This clear difference has raised questions about whether Musk's leadership approach can be effectively applied to public administration without creating chaos. Moreover, the very concept of DOGE itself is a departure from the normal government process. It will function more as an external advisory commission than a true government department. Its purpose and structure will challenge traditional approaches to federal reform. Musk's deep disdain for inefficiency and love for audacious goals, combined with his skepticism of government bureaucracy, make his willingness to take on such a politically sensitive role even more surprising. Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency will act more similarly to Ronald Reagan's Grace Commission. Musk would not be alone. He would be working alongside biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. Part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste.
What is even more shocking is the scale of Musk's vision, which is to save the government up to $2 trillion, an amount that critics claim could dismantle significant non-entitlement functions, including defense budgets. With nearly 450 federal agencies operating in the United States, many suffer from overlapping responsibilities, redundant processes, and excessive bureaucratic layers. Musk's proposal to combine these agencies aims to streamline operations and remove unnecessary expenditures, presenting a business-inspired vision of how the government could better serve its citizens. Musk's frustration with inefficiency comes partly from personal experience. As CEO of SpaceX, he has frequently criticized regulatory hurdles that have delayed his projects. For example, SpaceX faced repeated delays for launches due to prolonged FAA reviews, which Musk claimed were unnecessarily burdensome and misaligned with the pace of technological progress. He argues that the inefficiencies within government stifle innovation, deter investment, and increase operational costs, not only for private companies but also for taxpayers. He believes merging similar agencies could yield significant cost savings while improving overall performance. For example, environmental oversight currently spans multiple agencies, including the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, the Department of Energy, DOE, and parts of the Department of the Interior. Musk advocates for merging such responsibilities under a single, cohesive body to minimize conflicting mandates and streamline decision-making. Additionally, Musk's focus extends to regulatory reform. He contends that while regulation is vital to ensure safety and fairness, it must be dynamic and responsive to technological advancements. While the idea of DOGE is wonderful, it is also troubling as it could mean several problems which we will talk about next. Musk's track record in his private ventures suggests a consistent strategy, which is to streamline operations, eliminate redundancies, and prioritize efficiency. These principles, while beneficial for organizational productivity, have often resulted in significant workforce reductions. The idea of applying similar tactics to the U.S. government raises pressing questions. The federal government is a massive institution with millions of employees, and with the DOGE plan, it could see sweeping reforms under Musk's leadership. Streamlining agencies might involve dissolving obsolete departments, consolidating overlapping roles, and automating routine tasks. Such changes would undeniably reduce bureaucratic inefficiencies, but at the potential cost of widespread job displacements. These concerns are not merely speculative. They are based on Musk's past actions. For instance, Tesla's rapid automation efforts and SpaceX's lean operational approach demonstrate his preference for productivity over personnel. When Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion in October 2022, it wasn't long before he made sweeping changes to the company. One of his most controversial decisions was cutting nearly 50% of Twitter's staff, letting go of about 3,700 employees. Musk said these cuts were necessary to save the platform from financial trouble, as Twitter was losing money and struggling with high debt. His argument is very similar to what he is saying he will do with DOGE. The layoffs affected people in many departments, including content moderation, engineering, and marketing. Musk explained that he wanted Twitter to run with fewer people, focusing on employees who could directly build and maintain the platform. He criticized what he saw as too many managers and roles that didn't contribute to the company's core work. However, the way the layoffs were handled caused a lot of criticism. Many employees were notified by email that they had lost their jobs. Some found out only when they couldn't log into the company's systems. This sudden approach left workers feeling shocked and unsupported. Will we experience this same drama in the federal government as they try to downsize? The cuts also caused immediate problems for Twitter. Teams responsible for keeping the platform safe and running smoothly were hit hard, leading to issues like more spam and harmful content showing up on the site. Some experts warned that losing so many skilled workers could harm the company in the long run. In addition, the layoffs sparked legal trouble in several countries. In the US, workers claim the company broke a law that requires 60 days' notice for mass layoffs. In Europe, where labor protections are stricter, employees filed similar complaints. Musk defended his actions, arguing that tough choices were needed to make Twitter financially stable. While the layoffs saved costs, they also raised questions about how far a company should go in cutting staff to improve efficiency. One of Musk's most compelling points is the potential for long-term economic reallocation. By streamlining government functions, he envisions an ecosystem where resources can be redirected toward innovation and growth. For example, funds saved from trimming bureaucratic excess could be invested in infrastructure, education, and research. This reinvestment could spur job creation in sectors critical for future competitiveness. Musk's approach echoes historical periods of industrial transition where technological advancements rendered some jobs obsolete, but simultaneously created opportunities in emerging industries. Yet people don't trust him entirely. Critics argue that the transition process is far from seamless. Displaced workers often face significant barriers, including skill mismatches, geographic immobility, and psychological stress. Moreover, the scale of potential government job cuts could strain existing safety nets, particularly if the transition programs Musk envisions are not implemented effectively. Economists caution that while efficiency gains are desirable, they should not come at the expense of social stability. Balancing these objectives requires careful planning and robust policy frameworks. Interestingly, Musk's strategy also taps into the broader debate about the role of automation in modern economies. Automation has consistently been a subject of controversy because it can do a lot of good and damage at the same time. It boosts productivity, but displaces human labor. In the government context, automation could streamline operations like tax processing, benefit distribution, and public services. While this would undoubtedly improve efficiency, it could also render thousands of administrative jobs redundant. Ultimately, while Trump and Musk's vision might provoke necessary discussions about government reform, its execution risks being more disruptive than constructive. Balancing innovation with practical governance will be critical if this initiative is to succeed in reducing debt without destabilizing essential services. The question remains, can Silicon Valley strategies genuinely transform a complex, sprawling federal system? Besides, Trump is proposing several tax cuts, and it is known that tax cuts further complicate the issue. While some argue that they stimulate economic growth, history shows that without corresponding spending reductions, they can significantly increase deficits. For instance, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced corporate and individual taxes, but federal revenues did not grow enough to offset the cuts, adding over $1 trillion to the debt within a decade. Similarly, aggressive tax reductions without reforming major expenditures will likely deepen the fiscal gap. Without bipartisan efforts to reform entitlements, overhaul the tax system, and adopt sustainable fiscal policies, debt is expected to climb. Interest payments on the debt are also rising, creating a vicious cycle that could constrain future economic growth and limit government flexibility. The real challenge lies in balancing immediate political pressures with long-term fiscal responsibility, a task that past administrations have struggled to achieve. Will Trump and Elon solve this complex issue? Only time will tell. Don't be left in the dark on the latest political and economic happenings around the world. Subscribe now to get detailed explanations of what is going on.